A few weeks ago, I put up a video and can you hear me? Okay, I think you guys can hear me. Well, I was just saying that a few weeks ago, I put up a video and I was pretty amazed with the response that I got. Um, it was called What Happens When the Truth Teller Leaves the Family. And it pretty much it stopped me in my tracks. The comments I got, DMs, I got emails from people saying, "This is my life. How did you know?" And the question I kept seeing underneath all of it was that nobody was necessarily saying it directly, but you know how you get an energy from certain people where you kind of like can pick things up. And the type of energy I was getting from it was kind of like, okay, I left, or I'm pulling back, or, I finally stopped performing for people who were never going to see me anyway. But then the question was like, why don't I feel any different? Like, why do I still feel icky? Why don't I feel free from this? I left, but it's like remnants from all of that was still there. And because nobody really talks about what happens when you walk away, the aftermath of that, I felt like we needed to do this live. And I felt like I needed to do the live because um, it's real time. And if you have questions, you can ask me those questions in real time, you know, as you're comfortable, of course. So that's the reason why I'm doing it. And that's the reason why I'm supporting you. So I'd like to welcome you to Elisha's Space. I know quite a few people see my name and they think it's Alicia, but it's Elisha. So welcome to Elisha's Space. I'm just going to turn down the music. This music is set at 432 hertz. And I have the music at 432 hertz because it's proven to have healing energy in order to help you feel a little bit more comfortable with what you have going on. We're going to be talking about some difficult things, and this helps to calm your anxiety around some difficult conversations that we'll have. I'm Elisha. I'm a counselor, author, entrepreneur, and someone who's personally sat in the disorienting space of who am I now. And if you saw the Truth Teller video, I'd like to welcome you back. I'm so glad you came. If this is your first time in the space, you picked the right Saturday to show up. The session will stand alone, but I'm going to give you everything you need to follow along. So, Felicia 42 Fold is welcome, and Empress Kia 6466, welcome. Whether you're watching in the bushes or if you're watching on the live or you're watching on the replay, your presence is welcome. You are fully seen. And this was made for you just as much as for the live audience. So I just want to get a feel for things. Before we begin, how long has it been since you walked away, created distance, or started waking up to the dynamic? Just drop a number in the chat. days, months, years. And I just want to get a feel for who's watching and is in the room, if you're comfortable, of course. And I just want to take a moment, whatever it may be, and recognize that some of you may be days in, some of you may be years out. All of it's welcome here. It's all welcome. Wow. 6 years. Wow. Wow. Bless your heart. Yeah, sometimes you have to do that. I honor that. So before we go anywhere today, I want us to arrive. So I know this is if you celebrate, because not not everybody celebrates the holiday. I just want to honor the celebrations and things that are going on this weekend. I know my family is going to be doing some celebrations also, but it's kind of be limited. All my kids are grown, so we don't do as much with the Easter stuff, but we will eat and eat junk food probably to a degree. So I just want us to take a moment to arrive. You may have come here carrying a week's worth of interactions with people who still don't understand why you pulled back. You may be second guessing yourself right now, so let's just land, both feet flat on the floor. Feel the weight of where you're sitting. Notice where your body is holding tension. Is it in your shoulders, your jaw, your chest? I just want you to notice it. Don't try to fix it, just notice it. It's just an acknowledgement. It's there. Sometimes it's all the body needs, it's just an acknowledgement. So breathe in for 4, hold for 4, and we'll release slowly for 6. So let's start. Again, in 4, hold, and then out for 6. Good. Now just stay with that for just a moment. That settling you feel, that's your body remembering that you're safe now. In this moment, whatever is waiting on the other side of the stream, it can wait for the time period we're here. You're allowed to be here fully. So I want you to consider the grief part of this. And I'm going to put this in the chat, but I want me to finish the sentence. After I created distance from my family, I expected to feel, but instead I felt. So I'm just going to put that in the chat. And it could be that you expected freedom, but you felt loss. Maybe you expected peace, but you felt guilt. Maybe you expected relief, but it felt like you were falling. This is one of the most important things I want to say, both clinically and spiritually. The walk away is not the end of the pain, it's often the beginning of a different kind of pain. And unfortunately, nobody ever prepares you for that. So here's what's happening in your nervous system when you leave or create distance from a toxic family system. For years, sometimes decades, your nervous system organized itself around that family. Your threat detection system calibrated to what their minds were. Your sense of safety was tied to their approval. Your identity was built brick by brick on the role that was assigned to you. The truth teller, the scapegoat, the peacemaker. That's all the roles that a lot of you carried. The one who holds it all together while pretending nothing is wrong. And so when you leave, even though leaving is the healthiest thing you've ever done, your nervous system doesn't immediately know what to do with the silence. It's been in a state of hypervigilance for so long that the absence of the chaos, it feels like danger, because what's abnormal feels normal and what's normal feels abnormal. Okay. And I just want to validate you. That's not weakness, that is a neurological conditioning. And it takes time as well as intentional work to recalibrate. Thought I would feel healing, freedom, but felt lost and misunderstood. And now I'm still healing and getting to know who I am and what I want. Very good. Very good. It's almost like you get reintroduced to yourself, isn't it? It's almost like you just realize, oh, wait a minute, I'm who I thought I was, or I'm okay. It's like you get to figure things out. Like even like meals or food that maybe you've been served with your family that you thought you liked, you realize you didn't really like it. You just kind of ate it because that was, the accepting thing to do. You know, a lot of times we pass over things. We um, sacrifice our wants, our needs, our desires in order to help other people feel better about themselves while at the same time hurting ourselves in the process. There's a concept I want to introduce. It's called enmeshment grief. And enmeshment is what happens in family systems where the boundaries between people are blurred, where your feelings aren't allowed to be separate from, let's say, your mother's feelings, where your success is the family's success and your failure is the family's shame. So when you leave an enmeshed family system, you experience a very specific kind of grief because you're not just grieving the relationship, you are grieving. You're grieving the version of yourself that existed that was inside that system. The hope that they would eventually see you, the childhood you deserved, but you didn't have, the family that you imagined you had before you understood what was really happening. You're grieving a loss that most people around you don't have language for. And that kind of invisible grief is one of the loneliest experiences a human being can have. So, which of those for losses has kind of hit you the hardest right now? Drop a number in the chat, and I'm going to put this in the prompt as well. Looks like I put it in twice. So, one is the version of yourself inside the system. Two is the hope they would finally see you. Three is the childhood you deserved. And four is the family you thought you had. I'll tell you that I'll mark that quite a few of my clients uh, who are in the process of overcoming unhealthy family dynamics is the number three as well as the number two. That's what a lot of my clients feel when they're dealing with unhealthy family dynamics and they choose to move. Three and four. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And see, this is important because what you're doing is you're naming things that you may never have been allowed to name inside that family. And the naming, that act of putting language to your experience, is moving towards freedom, that changing the trajectory of what was unhealthy and moving to that which is healthy. So now I'm going to ask you, what was your role that the family assigned you? Were you the fixer? You were expected to fix everything, make everything better? Were you the strong one? Everyone expected you to, you were the one that people could kind of like trauma dump on it because you were the strong one. Everyone could kind of mistreat you and talk to you in a kind of way because you're the strong one. They can take it. Oh, it's just so and so. They can take it. Were you the black sheep or the golden child? The invisible one? What was yours? Like, what was your role? Scapegoat. I'm sorry, Felicia. 42 full. Now I want to ask you something. Who are you without that role? Not necessarily who does the family say you are or what others might say you are, not necessarily what, but not who the marriage shaped you into, you know, within those relationship dynamics. Maybe not if it was a dysfunctional, if it was a spiritual abuse that went on, not that place of worship that said you were. You know, who are you? And for a lot of us, and I say this because I'm not exempt from this work, you know, those who know my story know that I've come out of a lot of things, and it's the reason why I'm in this field today. It's part of my healing journey. I'm still moving forward. I'm so thankful I will not who I was just a few, you know, I was who I was before. But that question, it kind of lands like a void for a lot of people because the role was the identity, especially if you've been in it since childhood. So that's kind of what I call the identity displacement that happens after you walk away. You didn't just lose the relationship, you lost the scaffolding your sense of self was built on. And that's terrifying. And it's also, and I want you to hear me, one of the most sacred opportunities of your adult life. Because for a lot of you, this is the first time the real you has had any room to breathe, which is why it becomes, yes, a thrilling overcomer. Thank you, Felicia 42 Full. Yes, yes, yes. So I want to bring scripture into this, and it's not as a platitude, but as an anchor. In Jeremiah 1:5, God says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you." So I want you to hear what that means for your identity. Before your mother had an opinion about you, before your father's silence shaped you, before the family system handed you a role and told you to perform it, God knew you. There is a version of you that exists prior to the wound. And that's the version we're separating ourselves from. That's the version we are rebuilding, not building something new from scratch. We're excavating what was already there underneath the performance, the people pleasing, the hyper vigilance, the role. And your identity was not destroyed by what happened to you, it was buried. And leaving or creating distance, I like that word, that phrase better, is what finally gives you the shovel. So I want to give you 4 questions, not to answer right now, but just kind of to sit with. And you can write them down if you like. So question 1, what did I love before I learned that loving things made me a target? Question 2, what did I believe about myself before I was told who I was? Question 3, what would I do or who would I be if no one in my family of origin were watching? And then question 4, what has never changed about me, even inside the hardest seasons? So, those questions, they're not therapy work, they're invitations for you to come back to who you are as a person. The answers are already in you, you're just learning to hear them again. Would you like for me to say them again? I will say them again. Question 1 is, what did I love before I learned that loving things made me a target? Question 2, what did I believe about myself before I was told who I was? Question 3, what would I do or who would I be if no one in my family of origin were watching? And then question 4, what has never changed about me, even inside the hardest seasons? So I want to get practical now. because identity work without tools is just beautiful language that doesn't change anything. So let's talk about how you can actually move forward. And you know that I like acronyms. So we're going to use the REST, R-E-S-T framework, specifically applied to what happens after you leave a toxic family system. So R stands for regulate, and I can't say this enough. Your nervous system has spent years in a state of low grade emergency, tracking moods, managing conflict, anticipating explosions. That doesn't just turn off because you left. Daily regulation is not optional. The 446 breath we did at the opening, that needs to be a daily practice. You can put cold water on your wrist when you're spiraling, feet on the floor, hand on your chest. Your body needs to learn slowly that it's safe. E, that stands for experience. This is the one people skip. We walk away and then we want to get to the healing part, the freedom, the growth, the glow up, and we bypass the grief. I'm telling you, you can't bypass the grief. It won't be bypassed. It will wait. So let yourself be sad. Let yourself be angry. Let yourself mourn the family that you actually deserved and didn't have. And that is not weakness, that is metabolizing something real. Stands for surrender. Here is the hard work for you. You can't control what they do with their distance. You can only make them understand. You cannot make them understand. It's just not. You can't force the apology. You can't fix the family system by explaining yourself one more time. I can't tell you how many times that I've worked with people and they feel like, well, if I explain it one more time, if I just do this one more time, the truth of the matter is, if they're already within their role, they're not going to get it. They're just not. So the surrender doesn't mean that you don't care. It means you stop making their response responsible for your healing. I use this phrase quite a bit. You can stay right over there. I'm good. You can stay right over there. It's a place of accepting and meeting them where they are. It's a way for you to not paralyze your healing and your growth because you want so badly for them to approve whatever it is you're doing, to approve and move forward in the relationship. To be quite frank, some people just don't have the emotional maturity. They don't. They're not ready. Some people have become comfortable within their own toxicity. It serves them. And then T is for trust. Trust the version of you that created the distance. You didn't leave because you were dramatic. You didn't pull back because you couldn't handle it. It was that something in you knew that this is costing me more than it's giving. So trust that knowing, even on the days when the guilt tries to talk you out of it. So, which letter of R.E.S.T is your hardest right now and your post walkaway season? Is it R.E.S. or T? And I'd like to take a few moments, on something that comes up in every single comment on the Truth Teller video, the messages I I cover, and even working with people, is the word guilt. It's the guilt of being the one who changed, survivor's remorse, the guilt of choosing yourself when you were taught that choosing yourself was selfish, right? The guilt of a holiday table that has an empty chair, even if that chair belonged to someone who hurt you. So here's what I want to say about guilt, both clinically as well as spiritually. Guilt is not always evidence of wrongdoing. In healthy systems, guilt signals a genuine moral breach, something we did that violated our values. But in situations that are dysfunctional systems, guilt is often a tool of control. You were trained to feel guilty for having needs, for telling the truth, for existing in ways that disrupted the family narrative. So when you feel guilty for walking away, I wanted you to ask your question. Ask yourself a question. Did I violate my own values or did I honor them? And that's not a rhetorical question. Just sit with it. And I'd like to say this slowly because this is spiritual and it's clinical at the same time. You are not responsible for maintaining relationships that require you to disappear. Full stop. Jesus himself in Luke chapter 12, verse 51 said, "Do you think I came to bring peace on earth? No, I tell you, but division. The truth divides. Choosing health divides. That does not make the division your fault. It makes the cost of living in your and own and truth in your integrity." Very good. I honor you for honoring them. So I'd like to go ahead and close our time together with prayer and just kind of settle where we are. Father, we come before you today and we are carrying something heavy, the grief of families that didn't protect us the way they should have. This orientation of lives being rebuilt from inside out. The guilt that doesn't belong to us, but we've been carrying for so long it feels like it does. And Lord, we ask you to meet every person who is both live in the bushes or watching on the replay, in the quiet place that they're watching from, exactly where they are. And remind them that you knew them before the wound, before the role, before the family system handed them a script and told them to perform. You knew them and you still do. So I ask, Lord, that you would call back the parts of them that went into hiding to survive. The joy, the voice, the knowing, the creativity. That part's huge. The faith that got buried under shame and silence. And let the season of distance, as painful as it is, be the beginning of the most honest life they've ever lived. Let them trust the version of themselves that finally said enough. And let them know deeply in their bodies and in their spirits that they're not alone. Amen. So, Felicia, 42 full, ask a question. When do I find replacement family and friends? What I found is that as you move forward in your healing journey, let me preface that before I answer the question. So, withdrawal is in isolation is part of the dysfunctional um, dynamic within the families. And so it gets real comfortable to kind of like just be with you and with yourself. But that doesn't mean it's healthy, right? It may be something you've become accustomed to. And I don't want to draw assumptions, but I just know that's a common thing with um, dysfunctional families, and a lot of scapegoats tend to be very, very cautious about connecting with others. So, what it almost has to be an intentional thing that you're doing with others. It can't just be, oh, because it's going to feel uncomfortable. So, in answer to your question, finding communities that are meaningful and important to you. And then as you go through your healing journey, you also tend to attract those individuals and they draw themselves to you. So consider, for instance, um, things that are of interest to you. And then you kind of have to be intentional about connection when connecting with others as well. I'm not sure if I answered the question well, but on the live and without knowing much information, that's about as far as I could go, is find people who have similar interests as you, and then start building your community from there. And I think too, as you get to know you, as you get to spend more time with you, because you've been out for 6 years, which is amazing, right? You start to get to know other people, you know, who are as well. And sometimes your chosen family is just as remarkable as the family that you rebuild. I tell this story quite a bit. There was a time I was going to a conference and I had reached I my car stalled. My car stalled and I was on the side of the road, and it was right this was around the time of the George Floyd incident, right? And so everybody at that time was kind of hyper vigilant, right? So at that time, um, and I was in North Carolina. All right. So no one clicks with what I'm looking for. Hmm. Well, let me finish telling my story, and then I'll respond to that. And so I had reached out to a family member, and the family member said that um, she wasn't able to come. And at the time, I wasn't able to contact Uber, or I just, my funds were low at the time. I'm just keeping it real. I was on the side of the road. I was scared. I kept seeing all these cop cars driving around. And I was like, in normal times, if you want to call normal times, because it's been a minute since it's been that, I'd love to be able to, like, trust that a police officer would help me, but I was, I'm human just like everybody else. I wasn't comfortable with it. So then I contacted a friend of mine, and I didn't know that she was in North Carolina. Too, she was visiting her family in North Carolina. And I said to her, I was like, I'm in this situation, blah, 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 blah. And she said, something. She said, I'm visiting family right now. I happen to be about 15 minutes away from you. Let me go check you out. So she came, she checked her and her husband. They went and they checked me out. They made sure I was good. They helped me get the car fixed. They made sure my housing and everything was good. I mean, they took care of me. They became my chosen family. You know, in that situation. But when it comes to going out and meeting people, yeah, it was really cool because at the time, um, and that's what I found. It kind of happens organically, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So the question becomes, are your expectations for what you're looking for realistic expectations? Does it come from a place of perfectionism? And then the other question becomes, the other question becomes, does, if it's not from a place of perfectionism, do I need to start moving in circles that are different from what I've been in moving in before? So those are the two things that are there. So if the energy is not matching, maybe it's time to change circles where people share a similar energy or frequency as you do. And she and I, we're still friends. Our friendship is very dynamic, I'll say that way. But she is my chosen family. She is my chosen family. Right. And I'll also say this, as you go in your healing journey, like as you continue to progress in your healing journey, I found that your circle tends to get smaller. You know, maybe maybe you do need to move, I don't know. But I found that your circle tends to get smaller. You know, because not everybody can move where you are. Not everybody can go where you're going. But I found that as well. So I'm going to give you guys a challenge. It's one of the four identity excavation questions that I gave. I want you to just pick one and maybe write about it, think about it without stopping. Don't edit it, just perform, just write. And this is how you begin to know who you are that was buried under that role. Just for like maybe 10 minutes, and that's it. And if this has resonated, share it with someone who might need to hear it. You may not know who in your circle is sitting in that season, but if you share it, it'll find them. Leave a comment and tell me which of those four questions you're starting with, and I read every comment. If you haven't watched the Truth Teller video, I believe that link is, I put it in the description. Start there. And today's session is the part 2 of that video. I love the community that we're building. I love the community that we're building. Thank you, Empress Kia. But just like what I did before, Felicia 42 Full, I could create a video, or not necessarily a video, either a video of a live about building community and what that can look like. I can do that. That's no problem. So if there's no further questions, I'm going to go ahead and end this live. I want you guys to just, take care of yourself. You did something hard, and you did it because you knew you were worth more, and you still are. We're worth more. All right, so I will see you guys Tuesday. I don't think. Let me look at my calendar. I don't think. Oh yeah, I will be Tuesday, but I won't be Tuesday. Maybe I could squeeze it in a Tuesday evening, but I'll be live on Tuesdays and Saturdays, and I will see you guys then. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful Saturday and weekend. I love that spring is coming and all those other things. And I hope you guys are enjoying your holiday for those who celebrate. I will see you next time. Bye bye.